Nobody noticed the hundreds of times I helped them. They noticed the one time I stopped. Have you ever carried that quiet, confusing pain, the kind that appears when you give everything you have and receive nothing but silence in return? I know it well, because for years it was the background noise of my life. I showed up for people with my entire heart, as if loyalty was oxygen and I would suffocate without it. I stood beside them when they struggled, even when I was barely holding myself together. I gave my time when I had none, my focus when my thoughts were exhausted, my strength when my body was asking me to stop. And the realization that something was wrong didn't strike like lightning. It unfolded slowly, like a shadow growing longer across the floor. I kept agreeing when every instinct inside me resisted. I kept stepping forward when my body felt heavy. I kept offering pieces of myself long after there was nothing left that truly belonged to me. I believed kindness was protection. I believed being good guaranteed value. I believed sacrifice secured respect. I didn't understand yet that intention without awareness becomes self-abandonment, because kindness without discipline becomes permission, and generosity without boundaries becomes access. The first moment everything cracked wasn't loud. It was small. The first time I hesitated. The first time I guarded my energy. The first time I didn't say yes immediately. Nobody remembered the hundreds of times I helped them breathe easier. They remembered the single moment I chose to breathe myself. Suddenly, I wasn't loyal. I wasn't dependable. I wasn't the good one. I was selfish, cold, different. That was the day I realized approval is not connection. It is dependency wearing a smile. Back then, I lived in a quiet town where everyone recognized me before they saw me. My reputation walked into rooms before I did. People described me as reliable, generous, always available. And I wore those words like armor, not understanding they were actually chains. If someone needed hands, mine appeared. If someone needed money, I found it. If someone needed to talk, I disappeared inside their problems until my own voice became distant. They praised me constantly. They called me rare. They called me a good man. So I built my identity around usefulness. I convinced myself my worth existed only when I was needed. If I stopped, I feared I would vanish from people's lives completely. But every 12 a.m., when the world finally quieted and distractions lost their grip, truth waited for me. My body felt drained. My mind felt hollow. And a question returned again and again. Why do I feel smaller the more I give? One morning, Daniel knocked on my door. Urgent, immediate. He needed help repairing his roof. I had planned recovery that day. My muscles burned from helping multiple people just days earlier. Every rational thought told me to rest. But addiction to approval is louder than the need for healing. So I climbed the roof beneath harsh daylight. Hour after hour, my hands scraped raw, my shoulders tightened, and my energy dissolved into the air. I finished exhausted, breathing heavily, sweat drying against my skin. Daniel barely met my eyes. "Nice," he said casually. "Next week I'll need you for the fence." No gratitude, no exchange. Only certainty I would return. That night I stared into darkness. My body hurt, but the deeper pain came from understanding what I had avoided. The more I gave, the more they relied. Not appreciated. Relied. Days later, another friend, Michael, approached me. He asked to borrow $75, promised it would be temporary. I already knew the story before it happened. I had helped him before, again and again, and the money never came back. In that moment, something inside me shifted. Not anger, not resentment, but awareness. For the first time, I wasn't asking how to help. I was asking why I couldn't stop. And the answer scared me more than their expectations ever had. I wasn't afraid of losing them. I was afraid of meeting myself without their need. That was the beginning of responsibility. The moment I realized discipline is not harshness, it is self-respect in action. And growth begins the second you stop trading your life for approval. Refusing felt heavier than losing. So I gave the money again. Days moved forward, then more days, then long stretches of silence that said more than words ever could. Eventually, I forced myself to ask about it. The moment I mentioned it, Michael's face tightened, not with guilt, but with accusation. I thought we trusted each other, he said. Why are you keeping score? And right there, something woke up inside me. Not disappointment, awareness. I finally understood I hadn't been teaching people with my words. I had been teaching them with my tolerance. I believed kindness created loyalty. Instead, it educated people that my boundaries didn't exist. And that realization cut deeper than betrayal ever could. Because for the first time I saw the truth. My exhaustion wasn't caused by giving. It was caused by leaving myself behind every time I did. I kept offering help, and the strange part wasn't how tired I felt. It was that the moment I asked for fairness, I became the problem. One evening, the town gathered to plan a new water well. It mattered. Everyone depended on it. The kind of work that should belong to all hands equally. But before responsibility could even be discussed, I felt the room shift. Heads turned toward me. No one asked. No one negotiated. He'll take care of it, someone said with certainty. Agreement spread instantly. Decision made. My time volunteered without my permission. I hadn't spoken a word, yet my life had already been scheduled. I sat quietly, but inside something heavy settled into place. Not anger, recognition. My kindness was no longer a choice. It had become an expectation owned by others. They didn't respect my effort anymore. They relied on my obedience. That night I walked toward the river to escape my thoughts. The water moved slowly beneath dim light, but instead of calm, I felt hollow. An older traveler approached and sat beside me, as if the silence belonged to both of us. He studied my face like he recognized a path he had once walked. You carry the weight of someone who gives everything, he said, and keeps almost nothing. I looked at him, surprised. How do you know that? He smiled faintly. Because I lived it. For once I didn't defend myself. I feel empty, I admitted. No matter how much I do, it's never enough. He nodded. That is generosity without awareness, he said. You confuse goodness with agreement, but goodness without judgment becomes damage. To you. His words unsettled me. But helping people is right, I said. Isn't that what makes someone a good man? Yes, he replied calmly, but access to your energy must be earned. He leaned closer. When you help everyone, your effort loses meaning. When your time is always open, it becomes cheap. When you never refuse, your yes has no power. Something inside me shifted, like a locked door finally opening after years of pressure behind it. What do I do? I asked quietly. He held my gaze. Remain kind, he said, but choose deliberately. Give with intention. Protect your limits. He paused, then added, your heart is valuable. Value must be guarded, or it will be taken. The next morning came quickly, almost as if life wanted proof I understood. Daniel knocked again. He smiled casually. Ready to fix the fence today? The familiar reflex rose inside me. Automatic agreement, trained compliance. But this time I breathed first. And for the first time in my life, I refused. His expression froze. But you promised. For a brief moment, the old habit tried to return. Explain, apologize, surrender. Instead, I stayed steady. I'm exhausted, I said calmly. My body needs recovery. You'll have to find someone else. And in that moment, I didn't lose respect. I met myself. That was the first act of discipline. The first decision I made not to be liked, but to live. His face tightened, irritation rising across it. I don't even recognize you anymore. But this time I didn't step back. I stood steady and answered calmly. I rebuilt your roof. I repaired your door. I rebuilt your fence. I said, not once did you stand beside me. Not once did you offer gratitude. Every time you returned, it was only with another request. Then I slowly closed the door. My hands trembled. Yet inside something unfamiliar appeared. Relief, not comfort. Freedom. A few days later, Michael came again, asking for $85. His voice carried certainty, as if the decision had already been made for me. I looked at him calmly. No. Silence stretched between us. Come on, he pushed. You helped me before. You never returned it, I replied evenly. And when I mentioned it, you made me feel guilty for remembering. I won't repeat that mistake. Anger crossed his face. You've changed. You're not a good person anymore. A quiet smile formed. You're right, I said. I changed. I stopped giving kindness to people who disrespected. And in that moment, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I gained something, but because I stopped losing myself. At the next town gathering, I stood before anyone could assign me responsibility again. For years, I served in silence. This time, I spoke with intention. I've worked for this community for a long time, I said steadily. I built, repaired, and helped without asking anything in return. From now on, that changes. The room froze. I will still help, I continued, but not alone. My time has value. My effort requires respect. My kindness will be offered, not taken. Some faces tightened. Some looked offended. For the first time, their reactions had no authority over me. Because I finally understood, being good does not mean being weak. It means acting consciously. Weeks passed, and something unexpected happened. The same people who once assumed my availability approached differently. Daniel greeted me with respect instead of instructions. Michael kept distance, careful, polite. Requests still came, but now they included exchange, effort, payment, appreciation. Respect appeared the moment boundaries existed. One afternoon, a young builder named Ethan approached me. I heard you know your craft, he said. I need help with my barn. I'll pay you, and I'll help you whenever you need. I saw something rare in his posture, balance. All right, I replied. We work together. And for the first time in years, helping gave me energy instead of draining it. Months later, I returned to the river and met the traveler again. He studied me quietly, then smiled. You carry yourself differently. I nodded. I used to believe goodness meant giving everything to everyone, I said. Now I understand. Real goodness requires judgment. The right help, for the right person, at the right time. He asked softly, and how do you feel? I looked toward the open sky. Free, I'm still kind, but I no longer abandon myself to prove it. So if you recognize yourself in my past, the one who always agrees, always sacrifices, always explains, listen carefully. Kindness is not weakness, but kindness without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. You are not required to be available to everyone. You are not obligated to say yes when your mind says no. You are not meant to destroy your peace to protect someone else's comfort. True generosity requires discipline. It guards your energy. It chooses carefully. It gives where respect lives, not where guilt demands. Do not apologize for limits. Do not feel guilty for refusal. One person who values you outweighs many who consume you. Protecting your life is not selfishness. It is responsibility. Remember this. Kindness is beautiful. Intentional kindness is power. If you never learn to say no, you will never know who stays.